I have an entire YouTube channel devoted to talking about the Souls series. I have a Bloodborne tattoo, and I evangelize about the quality of the games to anyone who will listen. These are my favorite games of all time, and I've never played Demon Souls. I know, it's blasphemous. It's not for a total lack of trying. When I did jump into the series late, I desperately tried all my options to play the PlayStation 3 version, but for some reason, they didn't let you get it on PlayStation 4, only the Japanese store. Yes, that makes total sense. Only the Japanese store should have it. So I accepted defeat quietly and took PlayStation's long dong up my dingus. That is, until the remake was announced. My giddy excitement for the game revitalized, and with God of War Ragnarok on the way too, I was committed to getting a PlayStation 5. Well, yeah, then this happened. I've watched hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of videos on the Souls series, and every time Demon Souls has come up, I'd skip past. I was holding out hope time after time, and finally, I got a Demon Souls emulator to work on my PC. I had no idea what to expect. What was the opening cinematic? How are the controls? Is there a juicy booty monster? But honestly, this game slapped me in my face with surprise after surprise. So let's get into this with my long-awaited first experience with Demon Souls. And let's start with the good. When I first booted the game up, I expected some janky-ass kiddie-time version of Dark Souls 1. If I had to relate this to any other game in the series though, I'd put it more in line with Bloodborne. I know, that shocked me to the Valley of Defilement and back. But seriously, you got a farm for healing, you have a hub that you traverse out of by accessing stones, and the lamps and archstones work just about the same. But more importantly than all of that is this depressing, gross, and creepy atmosphere. From the moment I started the game, I was locked in. I expected something more in line with the somber yet majestic world of Dark Souls 1, but in reality, this game is just dark. It's oppressive, weird, and suffocating. The color is minimal, the lighting is minimal, yet the creature design is bombastically terrifying, bordering on Lovecraftian at times. From whatever the hell the thing was in 3.2, to the jailers, to the aching, moaning, and gurgling you hear throughout your playthrough. I'm not the type to get scared during video games, but if I was, I'd be hiding my eyes for the entire playthrough. It's not as excessively grotesque as Bloodborne, but it's nearly as oppressively bleak and overwhelming. Run. What are you? Shit, don't push me off. Another huge plus is the music. While the individual instruments can sound like the Wiggles are playing a show with toys at times, the actual compositions are lively and distinctive. Made in Estrella, the opening cinematic, the beginning, the Nexus songs, they all surprised me. And I don't know if my expectations were tempered because of the fact that this game came out so long ago, but I felt myself joyfully listening along as they unfolded, and I'm curious to see what the remake has in store for them. I actually kind of appreciated the newfound linearity, as it felt a lot harder to be genuinely baffled at the idea of where to go. While this did take away marginally from the intrigue and cohesiveness of the world, the benefit of being able to follow a distinctive path was more than appreciated for such an archaic game full of archaic systems. And even with the supposed simplicity, my dumbass thought that the difficulty would progress as you went across the archstones, not deeper. Let's just say I found that out when 4.1 was easy as cake. And this is definitively a Souls game. It gives me the same rewarding, joyous outcries of happiness when overcoming a monstrous foe, and the same torment when getting trapped in a hellish nightmare. It's rewarding, bursting with creativity and new ideas, and it sits in a unique place in the FromSoft catalog. It gripped me with its world as much as the best of FromSoft does, and for that, I can only sing its praises. And while this game is not exactly on the harder side of FromSoft for me, there were a few moments that made me really feel like a Souls noob again. Basically all of 1.1, although my emulator made me use a mouse and keyboard and didn't let me turn, and made me roll in the opposite way that I aimed for the entire first few levels. That totally didn't piss me off, by the way. Fun fact, sprinting past when you can't move your camera is actually tough. Why does it roll sideways sometimes? Oh my god. And I'm dead. and the characters. Wow, they are such a colorful cast of fun and unique interactions with NPCs that stand out to me amongst the best that FromSoft has to offer. But now let's get into the mixed section, and oh boy, this is a hefty hippo. So with this newfound creativity I see in this game came a billion experiments, and a lot of these experiments are, what is the new thing we can do to surprise the player? And too often it felt like unexpected shock over thoughtfully planted traps. Every time I saw an item or two in front of me, I knew the moment I grabbed it I would be ambushed, and I was, by something. Thankfully, I witnessed no mimics, but this game is like a gimmick show. Every new leg of the game has a shocking gimmick that catches you completely by surprise. This does make every encounter novel and fleshes out the world and atmosphere, but it's also not that novel to be randomly given the plague because there are no status bars. Oh my... And we'll get to that, don't worry. Feels like the game is basically trying to troll you for half of it, so f*** off game. But like I said, this does add to the individuality and creativity of the game. It's full of weird and wacky ideas, and while some land, some don't. I mean, I'm glad they exist, but is it great? And with the weird and wacky ideas, we have the bosses. Now don't get me wrong, there are some absolute bangers in here, but it does feel like a majority of the bosses have a really unique mechanic that, at least to me, was a little bit too obscure. There was no real flow of combat on the vast majority of bosses, with a few notable exceptions. Like Armored Spider is a great idea, but instead of getting into a flow state, you're randomly pushed to the back of the arena to cower in fear for 15 seconds at a time. Some land and some don't, but I can't say that these are my favorite collection of bosses in this series. Obviously, the graphics of the PlayStation 3 version are a bit limited at times, which wouldn't necessarily be a problem if it wasn't for the complete desaturation of the world. Sure, there are a few places that stand out, but this game's color palette reminds me of the violently hated Dark Souls 3. I know it's going for this creepy atmosphere, and I respect that they committed to it so harshly, but if we're gonna dock Dark Souls 3 for being visually bland and desaturated, Demon Souls has to get the same treatment. I was aching for some lively color now and then, and I think the remake delivers on this possibility. There's some obvious jank to these boss fights, and general enemy combat. Some sections spike in difficulty 100 times everything else in the game, while other areas are easily breezed past. It's the least consistent game in the series in difficulty, quality, and every variable imaginable minus atmosphere. And for the bad, oh boy. The horrible runbacks. Oh my god, I get nightmares thinking about some of these. The thing is, I'm cool with the idea, but I feel like shortcuts were used way too sparingly. I guess it's possible I didn't find some because I'm not a completionist gamer. Huh, maybe I should check on this before I say anything. Nah. But that run back to man-eaters, there's like 2 enemies in the whole thing, but it takes 20 minutes because you have to go up 500 stairs, and the stupid, brain-sucking freak is an absolute tank who 2-shots me. Oh my god, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Where is the elevator to skip some of these stairs? Or what about the stairs up to the old monk? Or anything to do with a dragon in the entire game? Or Valley of Defilement? It's not all that bad though. Some of them are manageable and cool, but some are at the level of Dark Souls 2 runbacks, and that is a dishonor I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy, you poor levels. And the farming for healing items, oh my god, I'm so done with it. There is nothing less rewarding in Souls than going, oh yeah, this area I was exploring was really cool, but you know what would be even cooler? Going back to a starting level to kill random enemies for 20 minutes so I can actually continue playing the game, whoop whoop! It's like having chores to clean the dishes, but in Souls. No, thank you. And then we had the completely obtuse system of world tendency, which I did not understand at all. And this was the only game in the series to force me to use a shield. Not a fan. And the last bad is the length. I could have blasted through this entire game in one night. And that's too bad because I know the DLCs are where the best content lies for FromSoft. There is none. And this game ends right when I think it's hitting its stride. Imagining what could have been is borderline depressing. So what do I think overall? Demon Souls is a worthy entry, but I do think it sits in the weaker half of Souls games. That's the weaker half of the best games of all time, but still, it's not up there with the best of the best. But what I can say is it locks me into its world in a way only the best FromSoft games can. And even if my experience was inconsistent with it, I was joyously along for the ride. Maybe the remake will alleviate some of my concerns, but as for now, I'm thrilled I had the chance to try it out. But what do you guys think of Demon Souls? Do you agree with my takes? Disagree? Let me know down below and we'll have a healthy, thoughtful discussion because this is the internet and that's how it works. Make sure to subscribe, as boss rankings and more for Demon Souls are to come. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Peace.